1991, scientists made a discovery that shocked the medical community for sure, and the scientific community in general. What they found was a neural network inside the human heart. They found about 40,000 specialized cells. They're called sensory neurites. They're like neurons, brain, but they're not in the brain. They're in the heart. They think independently of the human brain. They feel independently of the human brain. They sense, they remember independently of the human brain. So right there, I've just said a big piece of information that affects all of us, and here's why. We all have had trauma in our lives, every one of us. But our trauma is perceived differently through the filters of our life experience. So your trauma might have devastated you when you were 3 years old, and then you tell me about it, and I'll say, what's the big deal, Or my trauma my father left our home when I was 10, and it traumatized me because it said something about safety in the world and not feeling safe. And I still deal with that. I'm still healing that. And I might say it to you, and you would say, what's the big deal? My dad left, and hey, piece of cake. The point is our trauma is individualized. It's personalized. It's unique. But every one of us has it. When we have trauma, it's registered in multiple places. And if you attempt to heal that trauma only through thinking and talking about it from the mind, it can help. And I think it's a good thing to do. But many people say, wow, I've done that and I feel incomplete. Now we know why. Because the talking or the therapies may not have addressed the thinking and the memory independent in the heart. The heart has a very different language. It doesn't always work with the words. So this is one of the amazing things that we're finding out about the human heart. When I was in school back in the 1950s and 60s, it's a mind blower to me to say that. But when I was in school in the 50s and 60s, I was taught that the heart is the master organ in the body, number one, and that it's a pump. And we all know it pumps really well, but you can build a machine to do that. Here's what the new discoveries are showing now, is that the brain's important. I'm sorry, did I say heart? The brain's the master organ in the body. The brain is the master organ. That's what we were taught. But the brain receives the instructions that tell it what to do from the heart. The heart sends those instructions based on the way we feel about the world around us. And those perceptions are all through the filters of our experience. So all of a sudden, the heart becomes front and center because we now know the heart is telling the brain how to regulate the body, number one. Number two, the heart, this neural network, is key in what we call heart intelligence. In the last episode of this podcast, we talked about how memory, information, our divinity, our imagination, our creativity, our innovation, our intuition are all information in the field that we tune to, rather than that information actually residing in these cells, in these neurons. Scientists they've looked at the neurons and they're saying, where's the memory? Where's the memory? Well, the memory's not in the neurons. The neurons are the antenna. They are a soft antenna, a biological antenna that is in resonance. They tune based upon our feelings and our demands. When we say, I'm going to learn Spanish, that's a demand to the body to build the antenna, to tune to the place in the field where Spanish as a language lives, where millions of other people tune in as well. So all of a sudden, the heart takes on a whole new significance in the scientific world. It parallels our most ancient and cherished spiritual traditions, who've always said that the heart is the seat of the soul, as my brother Gary Zukov wrote a book called that, my spiritual brother Gary, that the heart is the seat of the soul. The heart is probably one of the least understood organs in this respect. And one of the biggest mysteries is that on a particular day in the womb of our mother, in one moment in time, there's a clump of cells that are there And in the next instant, something happens and the first heartbeat begins. And scientists do not know what triggers that first heartbeat. There are theories. Talk about ion potentials across cell walls and, things like that. If you ask our indigenous ancestors, when I was with the monks and the nuns in Tibet, when I'm with my Native American friends, when I'm with my Quechua friends or my Aymara friends in Lake Titicaca in Peru, my Yucatan friends, the shamans in the Yucatan and the Maya traditions, they all say the same thing. The first beat of the heart is the moment that our soul comes into our bodies. Our soul is part of, but it's separate from. It's a part of us that is ageless, timeless. It is the divine that is in that field. It's when the resonance between the cells in the heart and that neural network come into phase, if you want to think of it that way, with this part of the field. So the ability to self-regulate our own biology is a stunning ability. We're trying to build AI and smart computer systems that can diagnose and repair and heal themselves. And we can't do that with software right now. But if you think of us as an engineered biology, we have the programs, the soft program. We are literally a soft technology. So we're not a hard technology of silicon chips and wires and, software running through printed circuits. We're neurons. We're more than that. We are neurons. We're cell membranes. We are ion potentials moving across cell walls with the ability to self-regulate ourselves. We are so good at it that we take it for granted. And that is a stunning capability, and it is where our highest levels of mastery come from. Now, the next level of this is once we embrace the neural network in the heart, now you say, okay, we've got two neural networks. We have a neural network in the brain we all know about. Now we have one in the heart. One of the highest forms of mastery and one of the deepest places for our healing. We're the only form of life that we know of today with the ability to do what I'm going to describe. We can harmonize the neural network in the brain and the neural network in the heart. Two separate organs become one powerful, potent system in what is called heart-brain coherence. And the ability to do it, it's very, very simple. There's an organization here in Northern California, in Northern California, the Institute of Heart Math. They are a pioneering research organization in the power of the human heart in unconventional ways beyond just being a pump. I've known them almost since their inception. I'm not their employee. I've worked with them. We tour together. We fundraise together. We do webinars together. They're dear, dear brothers and sisters, and they're really good people. And they've given me permission as an independent researcher to share and talk about their work. So I just want to acknowledge that. They've developed 3 very, very simple steps that allow us to harmonize the heart and the brain very easily based on the ancient and the indigenous traditions. It's a shift in focus, a shift in breath, and a shift in feeling. A shift in focus from the world out there into the heart, number 1. Number 2, slower breathing. And when we slow our breathing, and there is a little bit of science to this, when we exhale for a period of time longer than we inhale, we trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the relaxation response. So it doesn't make any difference what the times are. It's just that the release needs to be longer, the inhale. So if you're inhaling for a count of 4, and then you release for a count of 6. Something that simple. That's step number 2. And then step number 3 is, while the focus is in the heart, while we're breathing slower from our heart, to focus a feeling. And this is something no other form of life can do. We're invited to have a feeling because we choose to have the feeling rather than relying on the world around us to give us a reason for the feeling. Now, think about that. Most people, if you say, okay, a positive feeling, So let's say the feeling is a feeling of gratitude. Many people will say, well, I'm waiting for something to be grateful for. We're the only form of life that can initiate that. It takes practice, but we can initiate it at will, on demand. When we change the way we feel, we're actually shifting the chemistry in our bodies in many, many ways. Over 1,300 positive biochemical responses in the body from shifting from our mind into our heart, number one, breathing slower, number two, and feeling a positive feeling such as gratitude that works pretty much for everyone. Once we accomplish that coherence, that can be an end unto itself, or it can be the launch pad for deeper states of spiritual awakening and development and healing and health, physiological healing and health. Just from 3 minutes of that process, the immune system is strengthened, and scientific evidence shows this. The SIGA, first level immune response in the lining of the mouth, is strengthened more than many antibiotics can do. This is what the researchers found. We awaken the longevity enzymes. We trigger the healing of the telomeres. There's an enzyme called telomerase that is awakened from this process. We actually relieve stress, Andre, on a molecular level. So many people are stressed in ways they don't even know. So we all know about emotional stress, bad relationship, traffic on the 405 freeway, we know about that. When we eat foods that are cooked in oils that have been exposed to high heat, for example, that is a stress to the body, and the body has to work to compensate for that. We drink water that has impurities of the wrong pH. Our body has to work to compensate for that. Pollutants in the air. We're exposed to this stuff all the time. So those are levels of stress we may not even be aware of. And this coherence actually relieves that stress. It heals all the way down to the molecular level. And what the research has shown is 3 minutes, a minimum of 3 minutes, will increase the DHEA levels over 100%, which is the precursor to every other hormone in the body, male and female both. Increase that DHEA without taking any supplements or changing a diet or anything. And you decrease the cortisol levels, the stress hormones, by about 23% after only 3 minutes. And those effects will last up to 6 hours if, barring some black swan event that comes into your life. The effects will linger for up to 6 hours after only 3 minutes of doing this. This is how powerful we are. So the implications of the ability to self-regulate our own biology, they run deep in terms of divinity. Those are the ability to heal our own bodies. That is a godlike ability that the ancients talked about in the literature. We have it at our fingertips. We've been conditioned away from it, led to feel helpless and powerless, that we need intervention. And sometimes we do, and we have technology for that. And I'm happy that technology is there when it reaches that point. The point is to honor the gift of this body, this temple, as we talked about in the last podcast, to the point where you don't need that kind of intervention because you are maintaining through the ability to self-regulate all of these things. So this is really put science into a place. There's a beautiful place where science and spirituality come together, even though a lot of scientists don't like it. And a lot of spirituality or people that follow spirituality, they don't like it either. They like to think that the spirituality somehow supersedes the science. And the scientists like to think that they're more modern. But here's what happens when we drop those judgments and we allow the two great ways of knowing, the science of 300 years and the spirituality of 5,000 years. Those are two forms of knowledge. When we allow that knowledge to honor and serve us, we then create a wisdom that's greater than any piece of knowledge can be. And I think this is what gives us the evolutionary edge right now that many of our ancestors didn't have. They didn't have the science. So that we can successfully navigate and triumph and transcend the challenges that we see in our lives now that other generations haven't had. We now have this at our fingertips.